music changes from the Battle of Britain theme to the march, the Dam Busters. Symbol E2R, and you can tell from the response of the audience that that's a highlight of this year's Edinburgh military tattoo. The officer in charge is Flight Lieutenant Sturzaker, and the drill sequence was devised by this man at the front of the parade, Knight Sergeant Roberts, BEM, who has been responsible for the continuity drill of the Queen's Colour Squadron for 2 years now. And he will lead the Queen's Colour Squadron from the Esplanade. Warm and deserved applause for the men of the Royal Air Force as they leave the Esplanade to the familiar music of the RAF March Past. And now the bands and drums of the 1st Battalions of the King's Regiment and the Royal Regiment of Wales. The bandmaster, Mr. Lewis.
the pipes and drums.
The moment for which so many of you all over the world have been waiting. As the gates of the castle open and across the drawbridge comes the splendid sight and the more splendid sound of the massed pipes and drums. When they are completely formed on the esplanade, 4 famous Scottish regiments will be represented and 1 Irish regiment. The Royal Regiment, the Royal Scots, the King's Own Scottish Borderers, the 2nd Battalion Scots Guards, all the pipers in Royal Stuart tartan, the Sovereign's tartan. And the 1st Battalion, the Irish Guards, formed 77 years ago, and of course with their distinctive saffron kilts, corbines, with each a plume of St. Patrick's blue. The tunes are The Heights of Dargai and The Banks of the Lossy.
The pipe bands continue their program with a medley of Scottish and Irish music, ending with the lovely Irish air, Eileen Narun.
By the centre! Quick, march!
This is another march by the composer of The Banks of the Lossy. It's called Miss Elspeth Stewart, and both it and the slow air which follows, Lackey's Lullaby, are by the legendary pipe major Donald MacLeod, wee Donald, late of the Queen's Own Highlanders. Hornpipe, Paddy McGinty's goat. the Irish jig is Pet of the Pipes. Eileen Aruan, arranged by Pipe Major John Allen, Senior Pipe Major in the British Army and Chief Instructor at the Army School of Piping here in the castle, with a most haunting and unusual three-part harmony seldom heard in the pipes.
And the pipe bands play off the arena with the retreat march, Farewell to Nig.
By the center! Quick! March!
Fine march by Duncan Johnson Barra ends a fine performance of music on the great Highland military bagpipe. It was introduced by the voice of Lieutenant Colonel David Murray himself, no bad piper, and the 240 pipes and drums are led off parade by the drum major of the King's Own Scottish Borderers, Drum Major Maxie MacDonald, performing in his 16th Edinburgh Tattoo. And he's followed by the Drum Major Keane of the Royal Scots, with St Andrew upon his staff.
The Royal Marines.
Bugler Naylor of the Royal Marines sounds the Plymouth depot call and divisions, introducing an assault on these ancient castle ramparts as daring and certainly more successful than any in 1,000 years. This castle has never been captured by direct assault. Men of 4-5 Royal Marine Commando based in Arbroath on the east coast of Scotland, with a small raiding force whose object is to rescue a diplomat who's held prisoner in the castle, perhaps a refugee from the proposed reshuffle of the diplomatic service. Snowcat vehicle, and the offensive is launched. Now, perhaps you'd like to follow the sequence of events with the audience here in Edinburgh by listening to the voice of Colonel Leslie Dow, producer of the Edinburgh Military Tattoo, as he explains the action.
That's what's called roller haulage, ladies and gentlemen. It's a system of being pulled up by sympathizers, in that case, inside the castle, hauling the men straight up the walls on a system of rollers and ropes and pulleys. all operational techniques taught to the Marines in which they specialize. They're wearing Arctic uniform because they have a special snow warfare role for NATO forces. They're highly trained, these Marines in special... It's all right, lady. It's not one of ours. All operational techniques. There's no gimmickry about this. It's what the Royal Marines use in operating from cliffs and coming down. And these men now coming to work on the Esplanade in what looks like tug of war, and in fact that's what it is, ladies and gentlemen. They are putting tension on the main rope which is running from the top of the Esplanade there. So far as we know, no one has ever come down from the Half Moon Battery in this style before. This is just the same, once again, as the Marines do in operations from the top of a cliff with a stake driven into the ground, and then from the main rope a pulley system, which you then use human force, human strength to tension. They never use jacking or mechanical means. It's a thoroughly unreliable, unsafe, unprofessional way, they would say, of strengthening rope, and highly dangerous. That main 3-inch rope running up to the castle walls can take a strain of 4.5 tons before it breaks. And there they are, they've got the main rope tensioned, they're off to take up positions of readiness. And shortly you'll see the first Marine come down the death slide. It's Marine Paul Stewart from County Armagh. And now someone who wasn't quite so lucky up there, he got wounded, like the French drummer, wounded in the arm, but still got one good one left. Marine Thomas Sterry from Newport. There's the back swallow. In no way attached. Not attached to the main rope at all. And now, just to show that it can be done, a front swallow by Marine Roddy Campbell from Glenrothes. But of course, what we have to remember is the whole cause of the raid, the rescued diplomat. All he seems to have is an umbrella.
I can't go down there.
Now they've collapsed the rope and running down to give you a salute. Salute to Admiral Henderson and to you before they withdraw.
So the Royal Marines, this most highly trained and versatile troops, represented here by 4-5 Commando. Drum Major Waterson of the Scots Guards gives the command, and the pipes and drums of the 2nd Battalion Scots Guards, 1st Battalion Irish Guards, 1st Battalion Royal Scots, 1st Battalion the King's Own Scottish Borderers play Blue Bonnets. With them, bands of the Royal Highland Fusiliers, Mackenzie, Trews, Feather Bonnets, the band of the 5th Royal Inniskillen Dragoon Guards. You'll see them in green caps, green overalls, primrose yellow stripes. Scots Guards, distinctive black bearskin, scarlet tunics, buttons and threes. And the bands and drums of the King's Regiment, in scarlet tunics with blue facings of a royal regiment. Drummers with blue 17th century infantry helmets, easily distinguished, like policemen's helmets. The Royal Regiment of Wales, also in scarlet tunics, with green facings of the old South Wales borderers. So spot the regiments for yourself. The march is Edinburgh Castle, composed by Captain Duncan Beat, Scots Guards, director of music of this year's Edinburgh Tattoo. And you may recognize the old Scots tunes, Duncan Gray, Molly Lee, and The Soldier's Return.
Next, an updated version of an old tune, Portsmouth.
Taffy II once again, regimental mascots from all the countries of the United Kingdom. The Brian Boru II, Wolfhound, joined the Royal Irish Rangers in January this year, passed off the square with the other recruits in St. Patrick's Day. Cruachan II of the Argylls, perhaps the longest serving Argyll there is. Joined the Argylls in 1952, first appeared at this tattoo 24 years ago. And Derby the 23rd, Swaledale Ram, regimental mascot of the Worcester and Sherwood Foresters, who wears 2 medals worn by his distinguished predecessors, one during the Indian Mutiny.
And now you've got a chance to welcome the mascots of 4 famous regiments. Nearest the South Stand, that's nearest England, Derby the 23rd of the Worcester and Sherwood Forester Regiment. Beside him stands Brian Boru, the Wolfhound of the Royal Irish Rangers. Then, well known to all of us in Scotland, Cruachan of the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders. And nearest Princes Street, taffy of the Royal Regiment of Wales. And the pipe bands and the maskets leave us as the drums play Talk to the Animals.
Nigel is ready. Up. By the St. John. Quick march.
Drum major of the King's Regiment gives the command, and the animals leave the parade.
Introduced by Captain Duncan Beat of the Scots Guards, Lieutenant Bernard Galley, chef de musique of la batterie fanfare de la Garde Républicaine de Paris, who is going to conduct the bands as they play Wee McGregor.
Thank you.